Hi everyone, my name's Clancy. Welcome to the Bat Channel. Stick with me and I'll introduce you to some of the Sunshine Coast's battiest residents, how they keep our forests healthy and mozzie numbers down. Now before we start, I want you to take a moment to think about bats. What are the first things that come to mind? Perhaps you thought about the big bats noisily feeding in your backyard, or the afternoon flyout from a local flying fox camp. Or maybe it was something more sinister like vampires and Halloween, or gross that, they stink. Bats have copped some bad press over the years, especially with recent global events. So you may be forgiven if your first thought was that they carry disease. Let's do a bit of a fact check on some of these before I introduce you to our Sunshine Coast bat friends. First of all, do bats really stink? Well, do you? Like us, bats can have a rather pungent odour. Bats use scent to recognise each other, and like other animals, including us, they also use scent to appear more attractive to a mate. Ooh la la! Despite the arguable stink, bats are actually quite clean animals, and they spend a lot of their time grooming their fur and keeping their wings in good condition. Are bats noisy? Well, yeah, they can be. Like us, Australia's big bats can get pretty noisy when they get together with their mates. Because we share a similar hearing range, when they have a party or an argument, we hear all about it. Most Australian bats, though, like all of our little microbat species, make most of their chatter way above our auditory range, so we can't hear it without a special bat detector. Who thought of Halloween or blood-sucking vampires? Well, sorry to disappoint you folks, but there are no vampire bats in Australia. Vampire bats are only found in the Americas, and only one of the 3 species actually feed on the blood of mammals, like you and I. Do bats carry disease? Well, once again, like us, bats can carry some nasties. An interesting thing about bats, though, is that they have a super tolerant immune system, and they're able to carry certain diseases without getting sick themselves. Scientists are actually currently learning more about this to see if that may actually help humans fight off problems like cancer or even slow down the aging process. If bats become overly stressed, though, through food shortages or camp disturbance, then they can get sick and, I guess inadvertently, make other animals sick too. Can I get the COVID-19 virus from Australian bats? No. There are literally thousands of coronaviruses all over the world, and Australian bats do not carry the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. Nor do they carry any closely related coronaviruses associated with past disease transmission from wildlife to people like SARS. It's still not advised to pick up a bat though, as a very small percentage can carry a lyssavirus that can be fatal to humans who are bitten or scratched by a bat and don't receive the appropriate follow-up medical attention. So to put it simply, no touch, no risk. If you don't get scratched, bitten, or consume a bat, you're not going to get sick from one. It's at times like this that it's important to remind ourselves of the essential role bats play in keeping our ecosystem in balance. Both our little bats and the big ones have been part of the Australian landscape for a really long time. Our majestic eucalypt forests, fragrant paperbarks, and many of our bush tucker fruits of the region persist in their current forms due to the pollination and seed dispersal work of our nighttime gardeners, the big flying foxes, fruit and blossom bats of Australia. Interestingly, eucalypts actually produce over 90% of their nectar and pollen at night. Now that ain't for the birds and the bees. This expert pollination and seed dispersal service will play an essential role in the coming months and years in helping to repair much of the bushland that was burnt in the recent bushfires. But that's just the big bats. What about the little ones? You know, the ones that whiz around under street lights or sports field floodlights. What's so special about them? Well, in Australia, little bats specialise in eating insects. In fact, one little bat was recorded eating 1,200 fruit flies in 1 hour. That's like 3 a second. What? Little bats not only save our skin from mozzies, but actually save our farmers millions of dollars in pesticide treatments each year as well. And that's good for us too. If you like bats and live on the Sunshine Coast, well, you're in luck. Southeast Queensland is one of the battiest regions of Australia. We have many of the megabats and about 23 of the smaller microbat species. Let's go meet some of them. Starting with the megabats, most of the big bats you see at night on the Sunshine Coast are flying foxes, either grey-headed, black, or little red flying foxes. Our region is also home to 2 more elusive megabats, the tube-nosed fruit bat and eastern blossom bat. Flying fox colonies are often by a river, which they're thought to use for navigation. Given our highly urbanised landscapes, researchers believe that they may actually use the hard edge of a road in the same manner. They've super cute little babies called pups, which are born in the springtime. They'll be carried with their mum until they get too heavy. Then they're left in creches while their mums feed until they're strong enough to take their first flight. Now, without the help of Google, they're forced to learn from their elder bats where to find fruiting and flowering plants throughout the year. This is also why some camps are temporary or get bigger and smaller as bats move around in search of food. Because there are less patches of intact forest than there used to be, many flying foxes are forced into urban areas where there's actually a great range of fruiting and flowering trees. Many microbat species rely on urban trees as well, especially old ones with nice big hollows. And they use these to sleep in during the day and as a safe place to raise their babies or pups. Let's meet some of the Sunshine Coast microbats. These little winged exterminators feed not only on mozzies, moths and beetles, but other things like spiders and scorpions, fish and even frogs. Microbats are not blind, however most use a technique called echolocation, as well as their eyesight and hearing to find food. They send out pulses of sound from their mouth or their nose, and the echo that they hear back tells them how far away an object is, as well as its shape, size, and even its surface texture. One Sunshine Coast microbat, the golden-tipped bat, lives in abandoned hanging bird nests, and it loves to eat spiders, in particular the big hairy orb spiders. They can masterfully hover in mid-air and simply pluck a spider from its web. Now that's precision. Another bat with a unique feeding habit is the large-footed myotis. As its name suggests, it has big feet, which it uses to drag across the water's surface for aquatic insects and even small fish. Now, have you ever heard of a clever moth? Some local moths are able to detect the pulses of echolocation that bats use to find food and effectively escape becoming someone's dinner. Long-eared bats have come up with a strategy to beat this. They simply use their excellent hearing and eyesight to ambush these clever moths as they fly past. Sadly, we don't have time to meet all the bats here on the Sunshine Coast, but I hope you enjoyed meeting some of my favourites. If you'd like to help bats and keep the insect numbers down in your own backyard, you might like to install a bat box. There's plenty of designs to be found on the internet if you want to make one yourself, or you could purchase a ready-made one from an experienced nest box craft person on the Sunshine Coast. Please remember though that bats sleep during the day, so whether you're moving around a small microbat nest box or a big megabat colony, please keep your noise to a minimum. Oh, and keep your cats in at night. If you find a sick or injured bat, please don't attempt to rescue it yourself. Remember, no touch, no risk. Tell an adult, call your pets inside, and contact one of the Sunshine Coast wildlife rescue groups. They will send a trained and vaccinated person to help you. Thanks for joining me on the Bat Channel to learn a little bit more about our batty friends. The Sunshine Coast just simply wouldn't be the beautiful place that it is today without them.